Hey everyone, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. Today we're going to be talking about what the internet seems to be considering the best episode of Star Trek Discovery so far, Season 1, Episode 13, What's Past is Prologue. As usual, first my review, then Easter eggs and references. So, as far as I'm concerned, this wasn't one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made, and it definitely wasn't the single best episode of Star Trek Discovery, but it still was good. I'd put it around Lethe level, that's Episode 6, or Into the Forest I Go, Episode 9. Those were the strongest episodes of Chapter 1, and if you've seen all my reviews up until now, you know that I consider Chapter 1 somewhat weak, or at least weaker than Chapter 2. Regarding this episode specifically, I did enjoy myself, don't get me wrong, but somehow it simply felt flawed at times, and so it bugged me a little. The directing was very interesting. There were a lot of shots taken from higher angles than usual, and some handheld moments that brought that gritty feel, especially during the fight scenes. The first fight scene, the one with the phases, though maybe a little too Star Wars sound effects wise for my taste, really did work. The fact there was no music added to the intensity and speed of the moment. Truly cinematic. And the second one was good as well. It felt like the music dragged on a bit, but having multiple fights going on screen at the same time was really good stuff. The acting was impeccable. Jason Isaacs gave a truly great performance. Anthony Rapp as well. Being able to incarnate both Stamets and Mirror Stamets seamlessly was truly impressive. I don't know about you, but during the episode, I almost forgot it was the same guy playing both parts. To me, it was just two different characters, with different motivations and different missions, one of which ended with a very fun execution. It's the story that somehow dragged this episode down. See, on one hand, it did so much that I loved. It answered a lot of questions, it explained the mycelial network, how Mirror got trapped in the Prime Timeline, what happened to his crew, and then it also gave the characters a very clear and straightforward mission. The good old hack the system, save the hero, destroy the menace and go home. But then on the other hand, so much of it seemed rushed. Everything happened so quickly and the whole Mirror Universe arc came to a full stop within no time at all. Lorca managed to take over the Empire and die within minutes, while Saru and the crew saved the ship, every universe ever, the mycelial network, and Burnham at the same time. Sometimes it even seemed like certain ideas were dropped halfway through, like Mirror Stamets' bioweapon, or events took place just because the writers needed them to. Landry and the rest of the crew were in the agony booths for what, nearly 2 years? Why? How is that cost effective? How is it useful in any way? Aren't you just taking the risk of letting them free at some point? And, I mean, did you see Landry when she came out? She was fine. She was in there for 2 years. Lorca was in there 2 days and he was shaking, he couldn't even speak. I don't know. It was all so crammed together, I kind of got the feeling they wanted to save time to be able to finish what they started with the Klingon War before the season ends. So they just cut this arc short. I may be overreacting, but that's what makes this episode flawed, in my opinion. I suppose we also need to talk about the Saru speech. It was alright. It was an okay speech. He talks about how in this instance he doesn't sense the coming of death, but, I mean, let's be honest, that doesn't count. He's terrible at sensing the coming of death. He gets it wrong half the time. But, yeah, he motivated the crew in a Starfleet way, and that's something that I really liked. One detail I really loved was Mirror Stamets hiding behind a holographic wall. That was awesome. Okay, so this episode wasn't my favorite. It felt a little rushed, a little convenient at times, but it still was good. It doesn't drag down Chapter 2, so, I mean, it's fine. Alright, Easter eggs, references, and observations. I'm gonna talk about everything technology related first, so what better place to start than with Emperor Georgiou's emergency transporter. More commonly known as site-to-site transport, this becomes a pretty common thing in Star Trek from the Next Generation on. Most times there's someone else initiating the transport, but we've also seen other instances where the transports are done automatically or remotely, just like in this episode. We move on to the throne room. This trapdoor, or however you want to call it, reminded me a lot of what Captain Picard has on the Enterprise in First Contact, so this kind of window with a force field has already been seen before. The episode also contained a fairly noticeable amount of original series sound effects, communications, that kind of thing. The last element I want to talk to you about, technology-wise, is Burnham and Emperor Georgiou's transport. You see, Burnham grabs onto Georgiou mid-transport, but the two end up on separate pads. This is the first time that's ever been seen on Star Trek. Usually, people end up on the same pad if they're holding on to each other. I don't know if this was done on purpose or not, but even if it is a mistake, it can be explained reasonably well by saying both of them don't have the same quantum variancy. So the transporter automatically separated them. Alright, moving on to Saru and his speech. He uses the words no-win scenario, and that's pretty clearly a nod to the Kobayashi Maru, which is a no-win scenario training exercise designed to test Officer's character. And finally, Muraloka explained he crossed over into the Prime timeline because of a transporter accident occurring because of an ion storm. That is exactly how Kirk and the away team ended up in the Mirror Universe in the original series. Okay, that's it for me. What you're looking at right now isn't exactly an Easter egg, but they showed it on After Trek. It's the first original sketch for Saru. I thought maybe you guys would want to check it out. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and live long and prosper.